And without any further ado, Erica Stanford is the Minister of Education, the Minister of Immigration, and the Lead Coordination Minister for the Government's response to the Royal Commission's report into historical abuse in state care and in the care of faith-based institutions. She has been the MP for East Coast Bay since 2017. She completed a Bachelor of Arts with first-class honours at the University of Auckland, majoring in political science and minoring in Māori studies. She worked in a number of export sales roles for New Zealand manufacturers. She also spent 4 years working in the electorate office of former MP for East Coast Bays, the Honourable Murray McCulley. I'd like to welcome to the stage the Honourable Erica Stanford.
Well, tēnā koutou katoa ngā mihi nui kia koutou. Good afternoon, everyone. It's a real pleasure to be here. Before I start, just acknowledge in particular the distinguished High Commissioners and Pacific Island Forum government representatives who are in attendance, as well as industry and employer representatives in mana whenua as well. I'd also just like to start by acknowledging the crash which occurred near Makatu in the Bay of Plenty just yesterday, and my thoughts are with those involved and their families and wishing them a speedy recovery. Nobody likes to wake up to see that in the news, especially with our really valued RSE workers. As many as you know, I was due to be here last year, and my people who wrote the speech wrote, but unfortunately I fell ill at the time. It was a little bit more serious than that. I was passed out on the floor of my apartment here in Wellington after having a very violent bug, because if it had just been a little bit ill, I would have been here because I had some news to share with you. But it was one of those events where my office staff were just putting food outside the door and then backing away because they didn't want to catch it. It was that bad. So I apologise for not being here. This is one of the events on the calendar that I always want to be at. Can I just acknowledge that the RSE scheme is, of course, one of the most successful labour mobility schemes in the world, and it's a model that delivers for employers, for workers, and for our Pacific neighbours. Whether you're in orchards or vineyards or pack houses, the RSE scheme has become essential to our economy, to our exports, to our communities, and it's vital to support our objective to grow our economy and double our exports. But if we want to continue the success of the RSE scheme, we need to make sure we're constantly monitoring it, constantly updating some of the settings, and constantly working with you to work out where some of those points are that we need to, or pain points are that we need to make sure that we are solving for. One of the reasons I was very excited to be here last year was to give you an update on the work that we had done when I became the Minister to make sure that the RSE scheme is fit for purpose in delivering what you need, that it's fair and sustainable and responsive to the needs of employers and workers. So the 2024 policy changes were very much driven by what you told me. I spent a lot of time in opposition, and when I became the Minister, on the ground talking to you about what were some of the early wins that we could get while doing some longer term policy work. What were the immediate things that we could get done? So thank you for your feedback back then, for your meeting with me, for your advice, because that led us to increasing the worker cap, making pay requirements fairer by allowing that averaging across a 4-week period and making it clear that only experienced RSE workers should have a higher minimum pay threshold than New Zealanders. We increased the flexibility of those joint ATRs by lengthening the grace period for employers to move workers between locations and businesses, providing the groundwork for better training and skills, developing workers by clarifying what they can study while in New Zealand. We of course added Timor-Leste to the scheme, which was great, and a number of other tweaks and improvements. And a year on, I hope that our Pacific partners, employers and workers have been able to see the benefits of some of those changes. But I was always very clear that those were the initial things that we could do quickly while we worked on further changes. I wanted to just bring up the accommodation cost methodology that's obviously been tweaked just recently, and I wanted to run you through that while I was here. As you know, I have confirmed a 2.5% increase on weekly accommodation costs above what is currently being charged. This is very much an interim measure. The increase reflects the March 2025 annual consumer price, or CPI increase. Just to be clear, without a decision, without this interim measure, the accommodation costs would have automatically reverted back to those 2022 levels. And of course, I think you would have considered that that would have been untenable given the cost pressures faced by the industry. So the interim increase represents a holding pattern while we intend to finish this work, not something that will occur year after year after year. The Ministry of, or MBIE, is continuing to work very closely with industry and Pacific representatives to develop a permanent approach to accommodation that reflects our shared goal to see the scheme thrive. I am determined that we will see a permanent methodology put in place, and I've made it clear to my officials that I expect to be approving a new framework within 6 months. And I very much appreciate your patience and engagement, and I want to assure you that I remain committed to developing a fair, robust and transparent framework that reflects the realities of seasonal work and supports both employers and workers. To those who've been involved in the room and helping us shape up what that policy might look like, thank you very much for your suggestions and your advice. While all this has been going on, we've got our short-term changes and we've got long-term changes, which I'll talk about in a moment. There are always things that get brought up with me as I'm out on the ground talking with you. And one of those this year was an MSD change. So it's by hearing directly from you that these things get highlighted with me, and then we always act as quickly as we can if we can. So for example, earlier this year I met with employers, I think it might have been in Marlborough, and we met with industry bodies, and they raised concerns about the issues where joint ATRs have issues with MSD. So for those who aren't aware, MSD was refusing to support the agreement to recruit applications of employers who were sharing their workers, where the start date for the second or third period of employment was more than 6 months away at the time of the ATR application. This approach came from very good intentions. As you know, MSD wanted to make sure that New Zealanders were getting properly considered for these roles, but the policy was incredibly disruptive to you. You told me that, and I took that back to the Beehive. Essentially, what I said to my colleagues was, look, it means that an employer who's trying to do the right thing by sharing their workers with other employers, which maximises the benefit to the workers and minimises the impact on the New Zealand housing and labour markets, but they ended up being penalised for doing so because the whole ATR application was being declined, and you were telling me how frustrated you were with that. So I set my officials to work, talked with my colleagues, worked with MSD, and the result of that was MSD changed their processes in May this year, and that was directly from a conversation that I had in an office on the ground with you. So as long as the employers are submitting their applications together, so joint ATRs are now approved in advance, even if it's more than 6 months out from the RSE workers' second or third periods of employment. So these are kind of the sensible, no-nonsense things that I want to be able to do if we can, really quickly, based on the feedback you're giving me. And it may not be part of the broader review, it might be operational things, but if we can make it work and make it happen, we absolutely will. While we've tackled these operational issues like the one I mentioned and some of the other smaller changes, our wider immigration work policy has been extraordinarily busy. You may have seen a number of announcements this year out of the immigration portfolio, lots of changes to the employer accredited work visa, changes to the active investor plus visa, bringing in those wealthy investors to come to New Zealand to share their expertise and knowledge and skills and capital. We added lots of new roles to the green list. We've added the new 5-year parent visa for New Zealand citizens and residents. We've welcomed digital nomads. We've got a new business visa that I'm about to announce this week. And we've also introduced a new bill. And this new bill, which is going through Parliament at the moment, has got one particular bit that will be of interest to you. One of the changes that we've made is to make a more flexible immigration system to respond to really significant events. Now, you will know this year when the collapse of Air Vanuatu happened, and we had a number of RSE workers that were stranded, and we had to go through each of those applications one by one, rather than being able to do a group change that would benefit all workers to make sure that they weren't stranded here, they didn't become illegal. And this bill will give us the ability to do that when something like that happens in the future. It might be a weather event, it could be a range of different things, but it'll give us the ability to be more flexible, always though in the favour of the migrant. More recently, you will have seen announcements around the introduction of 2 new seasonal visas as well. I won't go into detail, but essentially we're looking at 2 new visas. One is the Global Workforce Seasonal Visa for highly skilled people. I'm thinking sheep scanners and combine harvest drivers and ski field workers. And then the Peak Seasonal Visa, which is a shorter term visa for workers needed to meet surge capacity of up to 7 months, with requirements like health insurance and MSD engagement. But I want to let you know that RSE is a priority for us, and it is a priority for this term. I guess the reason I was telling you about all these other things is because I wanted you to know how busy the work program is. But I also want to let you know that RSE is a priority for us. We've done a lot across the portfolio, but RSE is a key priority for us. We were to start the next part of the RSE work this year. However, the nature of my position as Minister of Immigration means I'm often called on by other ministers to assist in their portfolio areas. And in the case of RSE wanting to start it this year, around now, the sheer volume of some of the government work that we've been having to do has meant that it's shifted out slightly. And you may remember we introduced a transit-free visa for Chinese nationals who are transiting through New Zealand. We've also introduced a visa-free access through Australia for our Pacific neighbours and also for Chinese visitors as well. Both of these policies we turned around in a very short period of time to help boost our tourism sector and boost the economy. And that has meant that RSE has shifted just slightly to the beginning of next year. But I know that progressing broader work on RSE is vital for the long-term sustainability of the scheme, and it is a priority for me and for this term. So in addition to agreeing a permanent solution for RSE accommodation cost methodology in the coming months, we will be completing work on the broader RSE policy review, and it is a key priority for us next year. So you can expect me to be here at this conference next year with an update on all of that progress that we've made. And as we look to the future, I want to emphasise one thing. We really can't do this without you, your support, your help, your input, and your advice. The success of the RS scheme depends on that partnership. So between government and industry, between employers and workers, between New Zealand and of course the Pacific. And we will continue to listen and adapt and make changes and improve where we can. We'll keep working to ensure that our immigration system supports growth, improves the lives of New Zealanders and reflects our values. I do want a very smart, flexible, responsive, nuanced, solution-focused immigration system so that there is certainty and stability. And we will keep recognising the vital role that you will play, not just in your industries, but in your communities in the Pacific and in the lives of our RSE workers. And the one thing I will make sure that we continue to do, and I hope you have noticed this, one of the key priorities for me when I became the Minister was I said to Immigration New Zealand, consult, consult, consult. Don't ask me if you can consult. I expect that that's what's happening. So I hope that what you are seeing on the ground is Immigration New Zealand who are communicating with you, who are out asking for your opinion on things before they make changes or bring advice back to me. I certainly know that they've been doing that in other sectors of the economy, and I hope that is also true for you. So thank you very much for your leadership, your resilience, your commitment to doing things the right way. Thanks for your input, your advice, and for working closely with Immigration New Zealand. Together we are building a system that works for employers, for workers, and for New Zealand. And thank you very much again for asking me to speak with you today. And with that, I'm happy to answer your questions, which I think we have time for. Yep. I'm going to bring my trusty sidekick up in case there's any very technical things that I can't answer. Do we have a roving mic? And if we don't have a roving mic, I can just... Oh, we do? Great.
Thank you. Thank you, Minister Stanford, for a very interesting address. My name is Richard Bedford. I'm not a RSE, but I've been engaging with the RSE scheme since it began as a researcher who assists them make use of the data that is collected by the government on the scheme. One of the changes that was announced last year, and which you referred to, was the removal of the requirement for employers to pay the RSE workers a minimum every week for 30 hours, whether they worked or they didn't. It was a provision introduced during COVID, and it made really good sense at that time. The change to a 4-week average of 30 hours, however, has posed a few challenges, and I'm wondering if the New Zealand government will consider something that the Australian government have done in the PALM scheme to deal with exactly the issue that the 30-hour average is supposed to address. The problem is that people don't always have 30 hours of work a week, and yet they do have to pay their accommodation costs, they do have to pay their living costs, they do have to continue their remittance programs. So there is a challenge. If you have a long period without work and without pay, how do you meet your living conditions in New Zealand? So what the Australian scheme, as I understand it, does is require that if a worker isn't able to get any work because it's not there or the weather's very bad or whatever the reason, that the accommodation cost is covered by the employer. Because these workers have no choice but to stay here and be in that accommodation. They can't go somewhere else. They don't have any home that they can go back to, and it doesn't cause them the cost. I think there's also a need to give serious thought to some sort of minimum income for workers that we bring to New Zealand in the scheme, require them to stay in the employer's accommodation and require them to be here for that period of time for their visa. It's about trying to find a fair balance of sharing the costs of not being employed. Just something that I would ask you to give some consideration to.
And no doubt we will in the broader review. I think, and it's something we'll bring up with employers to see what their views are and also the Pacific, but I think what we were trying to do with that, well, I know what we were trying to do with that 4-week period was to try and make it fairer for the employer. But look, there's still more work to be done, so it's certainly something we'll look into. We'll look at what the Australians are doing, and we'll do that in consultation with everybody. So thank you for raising that.
Good afternoon, everyone. I'm Timor-Leste Ambassador, designated to New Zealand. I'm here with the Secretary of State and his delegation from Timor-Leste. I would like to use this opportunity to appreciate and thank you for all the support that had been given to Timor-Leste, particularly Your Excellency, Minister Erica, your leadership to recognize Timor-Leste to be part of the RSE scheme. This is the first time Timor-Leste to be part, and then this is first time also for me to attend in the RSE conference. I hope that we will continue to work together for the next future. Thank you.
Oh, thank you. Nice to see you here.
One more question. I've got a gift for you. And we're about to present the recognised season employee. If we could just put our hands together again for the Minister. If I can kindly remind you, the Minister, Mr Stanford will be available at our networking session this afternoon. So if any employers and people have any questions, please make the time to connect with us there. Going on with our program, with the Minister with us, I'm just going to announce this year's winner of the Recognised Seasonal Employer of the Year Award is a long-standing family orchard business based in Ririwaka. Employing more than 50 workers from Samoa and Fiji each year alongside 19 local staff, they have built a reputation for worker-centred leadership. They provide not just jobs but opportunities for growth and well-being, from skills training through to supporting workers' sporting talents. The company's commitment extends well beyond the orchard. Their track record of excellence and care has seen them consistently recognised as a top employer. Their workers have achieved life-changing goals through their employment, from funding higher education to establishing farms and small businesses back home. Their people-first approach, cultural respect and community investment set a benchmark not only for the RSE scheme in New Zealand, but across the Pacific. This year's winner of the Recognised Seasonal Employer of the Year Award in recognition of outstanding commitment to workers and their community is Cederman Brothers Limited. If you can put your hands together, I'll ask that a representative come forward to receive the award.
When I found out that we had been nominated, I was quietly hoping we weren't going to win because I knew I would have to get up here and speak, which is one of my biggest fears, and we do like to stay under the radar. Thank you kindly on behalf of our company for this nomination and recognition. It reflects the dedication of our team. We are proud to see our RSE staff grow and succeed. They are not just part of our business, they are our business. We would not be here without them. When we grow together, we succeed together. Thank you.